We are gathered tonight on March 30th to continue our discussion of the charter amendments. And we are on Charter Amendment Resolution 2021-2. And this is talking about this is the charter amendment that refers to the chief financial officer. We had already begun last time going through these pages and believe we left off on page 5 of 8, Council, Chapter 14, Chapter 6, Section 14, overdue liens and taxes. I believe that's where we left off at. We have a few more pages on this one. So this is where we will begin this evening, talking about and going through any further changes or agreements on this charter amendment. So beginning with Chapter 6, Section 14, this is talking about overdue liens and taxes. The taxes provided for in Chapter 6-13 of this charter shall be due and payable on the first day of July and shall be overdue and in arrears on the first day of the succeeding October. They shall bear interest while in arrears at the rate of, and that has been changed to 1% of each month or a fraction of a month thereafter until paid. The council by ordinance may allow a discount for taxes paid prior to October 1st. All taxes not paid in arrears after the first day of the following January shall be collected as provided in Chapter 6, Section 15. Did anyone have any questions or suggestions in that chapter? And I didn't mean to read that for everybody. I apologize.
State code may spell out that percentage such
Okay.
that we may not be able to change it.
Okay.
All right. I'll
So
check on
the 2 to 3, you're saying it's
it. Yeah, the
state code?
2/3 of 1%, I believe, is in the tax
Might be state.
property article. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll check on that.
Right.
I'll just make a circle on that.
By adding the verbiage liens, we're talking about, let's say we put a lien on somebody for a water bill, they can't necessarily sell their property because of that lien, is that correct? Or the lien would have to be settled?
Correct, they would,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Okay. And with the addition of that one, I'm assuming it would be coming from possibly Section 13, since we had added liens on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Did anyone else have any suggestions into that? Okay, we'll move to Section 15. I'm not going to read this for your benefit. You can read it by yourself.
Oh, come on, Jake.
Sorry. That's all I do is read stuff to people.
Habits are hard to break when you're
They are.
off the clock,
They are.
per se.
All right.
I mean, I put this in there just more as a clarification, Council President, but I believe Charlene said last time, we already take care of the liens. They're sold as like tax sales. So I'm not sure if we want the liens.
I mean, it's never actually come to that, but we have sent names into the county. And then when the person receives the notice from the county, then they make sure they take care of whatever the lien is for. It could be for a multitude of different things. But yeah, we've never actually had a house go to tax sale.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think, should we leave the liens in there, or it just has more as a clarifying that it can be, you know?
I think it's good to leave them in there, it just clarifies.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right.
All right.
So hold on.
Sorry.
I guess in Larry's notes, there is a typo.
Oh.
paid and are in, is that right? Arrears?
Arrears? Yeah.
Is that in the previous one? No, or this one, okay. What's the,
Yeah. I don't think that was a typo. I think that's just a word I had to look up.
the way it's spelled, exactly.
I was like, okay, all right, I'll confess.
Well,
It's not a typo.
Yep.
gotta go back to college on that one.
Oh,
Tell you what.
you know, old language and new language doesn't always work right.
You looked up the thesaurus and you were like, I'm gonna pick the most difficult word. No, that's fine. All right, we skip a couple sections and move into purchasing. All the other sections denoted by the 3 stars there have remained unchanged. So we'll go to Chapter 6, Section 23, purchasing. And we added some verbiage here. The town administrator and shall follow purchasing procedures established in the town code. If the town administrator is unavailable for this function, then the mayor shall conduct this function. If either the town administrator or the mayor is unavailable, then the town officer appointed by the town administrator may conduct this duty. Did, and I only bring this up not for benefit of the position, but in the fact that the council president would then take over as duties. Do we want to specifically identify the town officer? Does that refer to a council, or does that refer to somebody else other than the town administrator that is town staff, such as?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my intent when I said town officer. I wasn't sure what exactly the proper verbiage or how we would want to do that, but like I
Okay.
was thinking the head of purchasing or.
I'm okay
Charlene
if it said
or
like accounting or something.
What was that?
Accounting
You're missing,
instead of town officer.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Do we have tissues?
Not be against
Thank
that
you.
defaulting to the council president, whether it be Jason or someone else. It, to me, I don't, what is the standard procedure now?
Okay, so when I read this, what I took from it based on how we do things now is we have our procedures and department supervisors approve all their department expenses. Ultimately, it goes to the town administrator who signs the checks and reviews the invoices. So reading this, that's what I would say that function is.
Okay.
And if the town administrator is unavailable, the mayor is also a signer on the checking account and can also do that function. I'm not sure if Jason were on the checking account, I'm not sure if you were or not, but that would be a good third backup. If the council president could stop by and sign checks if the others.
So, aside from that, this is basically kind of solidifying the current process. Okay, all right, so I would not be against council president being the third backup?
Yeah, it's just make sure like, since we're part-time for the main reason, just to make sure that if the check needs to be signed and somebody's on vacation, the bills can be paid, basically is what I want, or what I would prefer.
I think,
And council,
and we only, and I think it's a good point that it happened where then I needed to be on the checking account so that stuff could keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think even with the mayor's position of being a pilot, if you're out and David happens to be sick, then I don't think, no one's told me that I've been removed. I don't know. But I think the council president should always be as a backup to the backup, just to keep things moving. You don't have to wait for somebody. I think that should be a natural thing anyways.
That gives us our dual control that we're
Yeah.
looking for. We don't want someone that helped in the process of creating that check, also approve it. in the
Correct.
Final step,
Correct.
that's our.
So would that be okay if we indicate as the position of council president?
yeah.
But that maintains your internal control, is what you're right. That maintains your internal controls,
Yes.
so you're right.
Yeah, could everybody please turn their mic on, because I just had CMC thing me to say their mic.
What I said was that does maintain the internal controls she's talking about with the accounting department, so.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, because then
Tom
it
has
keeps
a
everything flowing, especially
point.
if that's what you guys have done in the past. That's kind of our standard operating
There,
procedure now.
there certainly was a time when I was council president that, that I ended up getting into the loop as well. And so I have no problem with that. And just, I had my head down for a minute, and I think I found the typo that you were talking about earlier, but I don't want to change the conversation right now. So my suggestion on 623-A, and I'm okay with the council president being in there as well, but was to change the verbiage to say all purchases by town government shall be approved by the mayor in consultation with the town administrator and shall follow purchasing procedures established in town code. And somehow if we fit the council president in there, I mean, I'm fine with that as well. So,
Larry, I think that's consistent with what we did in the first half of this.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the, I mean, several times we've said the mayor in consultation with the town administrator.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We do have a chapter on purchasing in the code as well, so you may want,
We could reference that.
may need to be adjusted depending
Okay.
on what you do here. Right now, what it says, or such other, the purchasing agent, quote unquote, which is the term used throughout, is the mayor or such other person as may be designated as such in the town charter or by the town council. There may be other parts in here, like for emergency purchases, that speak in terms of maybe like the department head being the one to make the emergency purchase or words to that effect. So we may need to make some adjustments code-wise as well.
Okay. All right. What section is that referring to, just so that?
Chapter 26.
Chapter 26. All right, thank you. Is there a particular section, or is it just chapter 26?
But I think we want to include the president.
Yeah, so the definition.
Oh, the definition section?
Section 26-1, and then the emergency purchases are in 26-2, where I think it may talk about the department chair or words to that effect.
All right, so let's just clarify this before we move on. All purchases by the town government shall be approved by the mayor in consultation with the town administrator and shall follow purchasing procedures established in the town code. If, and then I would just skip the one sentence that's sort of in the middle there. If the town administrator is unavailable for this function, then the mayor shall conduct this function. And I would just add that last sentence that says, if either the town administrator or the mayor is unavailable, then the council president may conduct this duty.
So when you say skip, you're talking taking it out?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we can
remove it.
remove it.
Okay. Just want to understand what you're,
Mhm.
So just a quick question. Do you really want to go through typos and stuff while we're doing this, or are you going to do that?
I didn't see the typo, but Larry, did you just want to point it out?
Yeah, just to have it done. It was actually on 6-13, so we may have covered it last time around. It was on C, 613C, a lien for an unpaid water, and we said sewerage instead of sewer.
Okay.
Sewage or sewer.
Sewer bill.
Sewer bill.
okay.
Okay.
And I still had to look up the other word too, so.
All right.
The spell check can be the summer intern's duty if we have one.
Nothing in B, that remains the same, and then we have some new sections that are added in here. So just go ahead and take a look and read through C.
So while you all are reading, I will
Go for
give
it.
you my opinion. Strike it. And the only reason why I say this is, so my events are not town events, but very often when Ashley hosts an event, I assist her. And when you host these events, sometimes incidentals happen and emergencies happen at the very end. And on many occasions, I have said, don't worry about it, Ashley. I will go to the store and pick it up for you. I have never once come to the town and asked for reimbursement, but those things do happen, and unfortunately, you cannot control them. So in the instance that, let's say, myself, Lynn, or any of us jump in to save the day, we should at least be able to be reimbursed by it. You
And we
can't-
have, I
right.
have.
You can't plan every emergency. I'll give you an example. Oktoberfest last year, Ashley had purchased town taps, I guess it was, the independent coolers. But Ashley didn't know a lot about it. And she didn't purchase the guts. So luckily we were saved by Mount Airy Liquors, who had the guts, and we were able to save Mount Airy Oktoberfest. Fortunately, we didn't have to go out and buy them, but had we, somebody would have needed to be reimbursed. You can't plan for everything.
You're sounding like Dr. Frankenstein over there. Coolers, guts.
But my point is, like,
Yeah.
every intention for these events is for the greater good of Mount Airy and downtown. You cannot always anticipate every emergency, and
No,
someone should be able to be reimbursed for those.
Well, and I have to agree, because last summer, one of the fountains, the pump died. So we ran out and bought a pump, and we needed to be reimbursed. So this would basically prohibit us from.
Right. My point is, you exercise, I'm not gonna go out and spend $600 and expect the town to reimburse me.
Well,
But
I
if
would
I have
hope
to
not.
run out and buy $50 worth of bagged ice to help Ashley out, I would hope that I get reimbursed.
yeah, and that's not the intent. As you said, I wasn't trying to limit the small purchases. Maybe I think you might have mentioned before in side conversations, set a limit on it maybe, or up to,
Absolutely.
just so, because we're thinking we won't, but we have to also think of future
Right.
people.
No, I agree. Meaning,
So-
like, put a limit on it, and even in those emergencies, if it's getting into a gray area, a call to David or a call to Larry can easily say, hey, I have to make this purchase. Are you
Yeah.
okay with it?
Yeah, and I would hope that, say, the town credit card, say Ashley or somebody else is holding an event, that they would at least be offered the town credit card to cover the incidentals or the unexpected
Well,
or unforeseen.
in D, it says that no town official can have access
True.
to a credit card. So
Well,
that's not an option.
I would hope that Ashley would be able to go out and buy it, but sometimes they're not able
So
to.
if
So-
Ashley is running around setting up vendors and coordinating the movement, she cannot stop, as I cannot stop, to go pick certain things up.
So what would you think would be a good limit? I mean, average,
300?
I don't know that you want to put a limit there. I think you could easily say that no elected official shall be reimbursed for expenses related to town activities that are not in the budget. I'm kind of on the same line
Yeah.
as Councilmember Reed about just getting rid of the thing. But having said that, I think the intent of what it's trying to say is that, it needs to be a budgeted item. And budgeted items can be contingency.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, if, I guess the scenario I think of as being down at MML and we all go out and I pick up the tab on it, there is a contingency fund in the budget and I should be able to go back and get reimbursed for that, which is where I have a problem with the alcohol part in there as well. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's unreasonable to, end up at a dinner where there's beer,
oh, yeah,
some wine.
yeah.
Obviously there's, you don't want to get carried away, but the bottom line is it's budgeted. We have a contingency
Yeah.
fund that's budgeted for. So I think if if we're gonna keep it in there, I think it needs to be reworded in a way that basically just holds us accountable to the budget.
Yeah, and I don't want budget, but, budget busters are somebody that think, oh, I can just go up later. I'm not saying, I trust us not to do it, but it's,
Yeah,
you gotta think.
so,
you
say
know,
if we're out there decorating for Christmas and we
Yeah.
need another string of lights.
Right.
Well, we're budgeted for it, but, the town staff may not be there, so maybe, Council Member Reed or Letty.
Yeah, or
If he
somebody,
ends up running out to Walmart and buys a string of lights, you should be able to get
if we so
reimbursed for
choose
that
to
because
submit.
it's budgeted. So-
Yeah,
So if we're gonna change it, my opinion would be to change the wording that basically says either get rid of it or change the wording so it says you're not gonna get reimbursed if it's not budgeted.
I like within budget.
Within budget,
Within
because
budget.
like she knows her budget for Oktoberfest, and I'm still getting stuck on the alcohol because one time, I don't know if it was Oktoberfest or Chili Cook-Off,
Chili cook-off.
very early, it was a fundraiser for Ava's, something ran out and they gave me money and said, or I had to run the liquor store, actually I ran the liquor store and I bought it, and then I got reimbursed. So now that's telling me I can't help, and it was like a
But is
little.
that different, though? That's not town, that was,
That's totally, yeah,
That's
not a
different.
town event.
like,
It's very.
I-
there's very rarely where the town is selling alcohol where you need to then go out and
Right,
buy
okay.
more alcohol.
That was an Ava's event, but even Celebrate, so I will tell you that with Celebrate, what happens is, Ashley picks a local nonprofit to host the beer tent, and the nonprofit benefits financially from the sale. But what happens is, the town purchases the alcohol up front. At the end of the night, based on the sales, the town is immediately reimbursed, and whatever is left over, the nonprofit takes. So if the town spends $500 in alcohol, the nonprofit hands the town $500 cash at the end of the event to reimburse the town for the alcohol, and then keeps the difference.
And I think the difference is sort of what the mayor was referring to, is when elected officials go out and use or wants to be reimbursed by the,
Right.
like, we're not talking like that would be a completely different scenario where we're helping out a 501c3.
Yeah.
This is, I think, specifically referring to, and you have to read beyond the words, and it's hard, to say, all 6 of us go out to a dinner and the mayor says, hey, we have contingency funds, I got the dinner, you guys have been working hard or whatever.
yeah.
And says, all right, there might be glasses of wine or a beer or whatever else on there. At the end of the day, is that okay?
Yeah, maybe I can give a more plausible scenario that just came up on Thursday.
Okay.
At the volunteer dinner, which, by the way, John, thanks for coming out and helping so much with that. We ran out of sodas. We didn't run out of beer, but we did run out of sodas, so we launched somebody over to Weiss and bought sodas. It could have just as easily been that, that we actually had beer drinkers there, wine drinkers or whatever, and we did offer, we had some beer and wine at that event, and I'd like to keep that going. But it's just as plausible that I could have had to have sent somebody out to the liquor store and picked up another 12-pack or something. And I don't see a problem with that, so,
And I don't either. I definitely do not see a problem with that. I will say, I'm a little on the fence about even if we were to go out to dinner and, we all have a drink at a table or something like that, and you said, as long as, and no one's getting crazy, but at the end of the day, we might be in Ocean City at a dinner, the public doesn't know what's happening. Like, they have to take our word that everything was okay at a dinner or whatever. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that one. I like the wording of saying within budget, because I feel like even there's a budget for the volunteer dinner. There's a budget for this, there's a budget for that. That is that has expectations. But I am on the fence about the alcohol.
Yeah, I've got a comment here, and it's echoing some of what you all have already said, because I first looked at this and I asked myself, what's the definition of a town activity? And so I'll tell you what my opinion is. I don't think we should, like if we're at a conference and then we all go out and have dinner and drinks, the citizens should not be paying for our dinner or drinks. A town activity to me means something the town is sponsoring here for the benefit of the citizens, or something we're doing here in the town. So it's just the way I was kind of brought up, so to speak, in the state and federal government. I wouldn't put that in there. Just as an example, call me quirky, but like the Envision Mount Airy tour, where I went on the tour, breakfast was provided, lunch was provided to all the participants. I came back and wrote a check for $25 and gave it to the town because I wasn't comfortable even taking that benefit as an elected official. So it's all about not just rules, but appearances. So I think we need to know what we mean when we say town activities. And I think the after-hours stuff is not appropriate.
I mean, I like the budget, the word budget, because that kind of activities normally have budget. I kind of agree with the council president about, I'm on the fence with the alcohol, because I know I modeled this as purchased alcohol because the state does not allow, I mean, they'll allow you a per diem on an event for food, but alcohol is a no. So that's what I'm kind of like, that's what I was thinking about, is like not more an event, but if we're out, let's say, at the conference at Ocean City or some other event, I mean, alcohol sometimes, I would hope that people would expect us to go out and feed ourselves. So I get it. I mean, if we're uncomfortable, we can come back and write a check to you or the town to cover that, because in reality, when we go to the MML and stuff, we do not have a meal per diem. We pay for ourselves for the meal. So one meal paid for it. If I feel uncomfortable, I will more than happy, like as Councilman DeMoss says, write the check back to the town. But alcohol can sometimes be more expensive than the food.
So what's the, and I'm not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's up for discussion. So what about the scenario at the Volunteer of the Year dinner?
Well, that, what do you mean, like when you needed to go out and get?
Yeah, if well, for that matter, just, you know, when
Yeah, if there's soda or something, yeah,
the staff is,
It does say, like in reference to Chapter 6, Section 23-A, that you are part of the one that would approve the purchase, right? Like if we're going back to Section A,
yeah,
that you would allow the purchase for reimbursement, the town administrator would, or the council president would. And I think because that would be a town-sponsored activity, and you are realizing that there is a deficit of something to provide for our volunteers that work so hard, that I think that would be okay.
okay.
It's referring back to the Section A.
Yeah, and there's some gray area. I mean, like that, I wouldn't expect the town, I mean, if a town council member goes to like Oktoberfest or say the Volunteer of the Year and have a beer, that's, you know, that's part of the event per se. We, you know, if it's being served there, if it's all being offered for free, that's okay. But it's like, it's more if we go to an event like an MML conference or something,
Yeah.
go out to dinner all together or something and come back and try and expense a dinner that we have, or a group dinner, and sometimes say meals 20% and then alcohol is 80% of the bill. That kind of,
Yeah, now I
Gets
would
me.
tell you, I mean, there was a scenario a couple, you know, pre-pandemic
Yeah.
that we were down there, and I ended up
Yeah.
picking up the tab, and the mayor at the time said, you can get that reimbursed up there.
yeah.
Having said that, I was kind of raised like you. And I just sucked at the bill, and I was fine with that, and I enjoyed it, and it was a great time.
Yeah.
The barbecue was good.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, the scenario I brought up of Volunteer of the Year, this is specific to no elected official as opposed to staff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on Thursday, if we'd have run low on beer, it's not like I would have sent Lynn over. I could have sent John or anybody. So, yeah, maybe I'll get a little wrapped around the axles. So whatever wording you want there is fine.
So if I may, I would suggest adding the language within budget and then removing the alcohol reimbursement. But then you have one other statement about it. And this is more for clarification because I think it needs it. Where it says any item or loan them a piece of town property for personal use.
Hold on, wait.
Same paragraph.
Where do we want, do we just want to take away or
gotcha.
allowed for within the budget? Where do we want the within budget at? Do we know where we want?
Where we need the
So,
word budget, okay.
To be used for item purchase.
Councilwoman Reed said within the budget needs to be added. Where do we want to add that?
How about after C623A, comma, unless, and Tom, you have to fluff this up, unless it is within budget.
Well, within budget might,
Or allowed for in budget.
allowed for in budget sounds better, I think.
Yeah, well, it's kind of already there, right?
It's already there, because it says, no elected official shall be reimbursed for expenses
Yeah.
related to town activities or for items purchased without prior approval as set forth in this above, or allowed for in the budget. So is the intent, Carl, to say you can't get reimbursed for something that's above what is budgeted?
Yes.
I think
Yes,
that's how we need to
exactly,
clarify.
yeah.
So I think we need to kind of fix that wording. I
If you
agree.
blew $2,000 on your budget for your event, and then you need additional things,
Like.
the mayor,
$5
the town
things.
administrator, or the council president needs to say, okay, I need to call Charlene really quick and see
Yeah.
if we're okay to do that.
Yeah, so Charlene doesn't get a receipt for, $500 or $1,000 for something to complete.
That's over budget.
Oh, that's over budget.
So I
That's
think
what
that's,
mean.
I think, right.
So the sentence that I had as a suggestion was, no elected official shall be reimbursed for expenses not authorized and accounted for in the budget, which is pretty
That's it,
quick, simple,
right?
gets us through it. No elected official shall be reimbursed for expenses not authorized and accounted for in the budget.
In the fiscal year budget.
Nah, I'll just say in the event budget. That opens the checkbook.
Take that off.
Pretty much.
Strike the rest.
Okay.
So we're striking all the way down the rest of that sentence, right?
Yep. That's it for C.
Although I have one question, comment. It's more of a comment.
Okay.
Or loan them a piece of town property or for personal use. And my only problem with this is, you could so take three organizations, Ava's, MAMSA, and the town. We all share equipment constantly. But when I'm acting on behalf of Ava's, not the town, you could arguably say that when I borrow town equipment, it's for personal use, right? But we all share equipment. Ashley borrows our equipment for her events. MAMSA borrows town equipment. It's constantly
Sound systems and podiums.
sound systems, podiums,
Gator.
trash
The
cans.
Gator's been
Gator.
everywhere.
Yeah, like, so meaning like my signage, my, like the the keg tubs, we all store everything in the same shed. Like the keg tubs that are in the MAMSA shed right now are my personal use. The cornhole boards that I use for Ava's, the town uses, and the MAMSA uses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
Like, the town doesn't have, like I borrow the town trash cans, but the town borrows MAMSA's cornholes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, then that's not, I know what you mean, that's not the intent. The intent would be like,
Right. No, I get it. Like, I can't take, like, the town trash cans to my house.
yeah, or dictate, or say if you were elected official, dictate to an official or an employee of the town, hey, go buy this piece of equipment, give it to me, and then you give it back to the town. And so,
Right.
so the town bought you a piece of equipment for personal use in the guise of giving it to the town. I'm not questioning what you're saying.
I guess my question is there a way to reword it? Because again, not just
It's not in
me.
the
We
budget
lined it
though.
out. Didn't
And let me ask you, Carl,
Yeah.
as you were
we
saying that,
eliminated
It is completely eliminated.
Wait,
I
hold
say,
on.
I say we take it out because what your example just made me think, we've covered that in A, 623A. Someone can't go tell a staff member to go buy them something,
Okay.
and it's gonna have to be approved by the mayor and consultation with the town administrator. So someone on staff isn't even gonna be told now to go buy anything without
Well, and again,
the
this is,
oversight, right?
this is specific to elected officials. So
Right.
if you need a cornhole board or MAMSA needs a podium, you can have Ashley.
Right, but in this case, I would be the elected official that's borrowing town equipment technically for personal use because it's a foundation.
So that's
Yeah.
why I agree with taking it
Do you know
out,
what I
because
mean?
we've kind of covered the control of it in A. Like, they're not gonna be able to go buy it without.
I would hope not. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt, and that my intent is not for
Right.
for your scenario at all. It was more like what I was saying. So if that's,
I think that's okay. Plus, we
Okay.
got rid of the credit card. And if it's not budgeted, then we have Charlene over there to say,
Right.
this
Or
is not in the
Katie.
budget, or Katie,
yeah,
sorry. And you're not being reimbursed.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So in this case, I would love for the town bucket to come to my house so I could cut a tree down in my backyard, but I can't borrow it.
Well, if we
Well,
should,
now you can, because we just struck.
Oh, fantastic.
or just hope for the windstorm tomorrow to come down and take it,
Just kidding.
take it out.
Just kidding. We're not borrowing town
That's
equipment.
equipment, yeah.
Basically, we're taking all of that
We're
out,
taking everything out except for
except
like,
for Larry's sentence.
yeah,
Yeah,
except for Larry's sentence.
Thank you.
I don't disagree with D.
okay. Well, we said, okay, that keeps it clean.
I did change the wording on D.
Typo again?
No, no.
Okay.
What you got?
Just spitballing here, okay? Only the mayor or town administrator may authorize the use of the town credit card. The mayor, in consultation with the town administrator, shall designate staff members permitted to utilize the town credit card in town accounts at local businesses. We have a policy that sets that. I should have brought down my policy book, but so, you know, I thought that would be a more prudent way to put it. Let's see.
Yeah, because don't we have accounts like, say, at hardware store?
Yeah,
and stuff?
at
Yeah.
Ace
They
Hardware.
have to be able to authorize, they have to be
Yeah.
able to
Okay.
authorize them to operate, so I would say yes, change it to what you just.
The wording, yeah.
So D is changing to,
If everyone's okay with that. Only the mayor or town administrator may authorize the use of the town credit card. The mayor, in consultation with the town administrator, shall designate staff members permitted to utilize the town credit card and town accounts at local businesses.
Scenario here, but just,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, can we just say town administrator Because what if the mayor gets it and say, the mayor can authorize himself then? If that wording, or the town,
Well,
Speaking of
My-
staff, not self.
yeah, my only problem with that is that we have a policy that I sign. So, I mean,
well, I'm not thinking, I'm just thinking of potential, like, under that word, let's just say scenario, under that wording, could the mayor, or an elected, say the mayor, because the mayor's in there, authorize himself to use the town credit card? Or would it have to be in conjunction, or does the town administrator and the mayor both have to agree who gets permission?
Well, in that scenario, though, the town administrator then could authorize himself.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you gotta trust somebody.
Oh, yeah, no, but would there be,
I think,
So this is speaking directly to staff, though, meaning only the mayor or the town administrator can
Yeah.
authorize staff members to use the card
Okay.
or accounts, right?
no, it's not just staff now because of the way Larry wrote it. I think it's okay the way the mayor rephrased it. Like he said, you gotta start trusting somebody somewhere. Number two, up in A, I mean, this has to be for an approved purchase, right? We've already kind of covered that unless you want to say the same words, it has to be an authorized, something that's in the budget, but
Well, did we want to reference chapter 6, 23-23A?
yeah.
Yeah.
That way it ties it that it has to be an authorized expense that's in the budget.
And in practicality, when we were purchasing things for the Volunteer of the Year award,
yeah,
you know, we specifically went back to that policy, and Colleen was authorized to go. Mary was helping, but we would not let Mary do any purchasing.
okay,
My Mary.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah,
Mary looked at things and then called Colleen. Colleen went out and did the purchasing.
So can I add this?
So can I ask you a question? That's a good idea, but since these all pertain to 623A, could we just add that to, or do we want to add it to each section after that?
Well, not every section.
Just D?
So far, D, I mean, we haven't looked at E yet. And I think that it would be, so then you would have A, B, the mayor's C, this D, and then it would be like, a subsection 1 that says everything that falls under this section is subjected to section A. But if you take a look at the mayor's suggestion, and then I would add that one last sentence that says, all other uses of the town credit card are subjected to chapter 6-23, section A. So if, of this right here. So that if Larry wanted to use it, or the town administrator, I guess, they would have to fall, it would have to fall under A, which is the approval of, it has to be within the budget. Does that make sense? Okay.
come on, Mike. That's a safeguard, and that's just a big.
I think that's all we're trying to do.
And we'll get a clean copy of all this before we say yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're not voting, we're just making changes. Okay, cool. All right. Councilwoman Reed had alluded to eliminating everything. Did that refer to this one as well?
So I have a suggestion for E.
Okay,
I would say eliminate E and go back to C and say keep everything that we agreed on the same, but add no elected official or town employee shall be reimbursed for expenses related to town activities that are not within budget. Just get rid of E. And
Okay.
put both in C.
Not authorized and accounted for, rest of your sentence, let's see, right.
I like that.
So no elected official or town employee shall be reimbursed for expenses not authorized and accounted for in the fiscal year budget.
Or activity, event budget maybe, or fiscal year?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be fiscal year. It could
Okay,
be-
yeah, it depends on, yeah.
You could just
You know what
say
I mean?
budget.
But I think it applies to both, right?
So we're taking part of C.
Well, just eliminate E and add
Yep.
elected officials and/or town staff and add that to C, so then it applies to both.
Okay.
As long as it's within budget, whether it's town staff running out or a town employee, and it's within budget, you can be reimbursed for it.
So how does C read now?
No elected official and/or town employee shall be reimbursed for expenses not authorized and accounted for in the budget. Did I get all your parts?
I like it.
That was, yeah, that was the section there.
Okay.
Okay.
And then E is out.
So E is,
Totally.
And then did we settle on D with what Larry had?
yes. All right. Moving into chapter 9, section 14, finance. We'll just move down to the addition, letter D, reduction and waiver of charges.
There is a, wait a minute, section 3. No, you're on track, sorry.
I have a question. So we're looking at D1.
Correct?
Who's the town officer in charge of water system billing? Or do we just, is it okay to say just town officer? Is that the standard?
Right now, it would be Mary is the best way. I'm not exactly sure if, I wasn't sure what the specific title was. So
we're
I
saying-
just put in,
So we're have a new section here. Reduction or waiver of charges can only be issued by the town officer in charge of water system billing with approval from the town administrator. Is that in line with what we just did everywhere else where it's the mayor and the town administrator looking at the budget? Because now you're giving a staff member the ability to what, get rid of someone's water bill? I almost feel like,
She cannot
yeah,
get rid of a water bill.
well, a reduction or waiver of charges can only be issued by the town officer in charge of water system billing with approval from the town administrator.
That, in this case, gives Mary the authority to waive a water bill.
Right, so,
With the approval of the town administrator.
It keeps the elected officials out of it,
okay,
is what the purpose of this sentence is. So basically, I'm not sure if the town, it keeps undue influence either from being imposed upon the, let's say, the water system person, I don't know what the title, and the town administrator. They both have to concur that it's worthy of a reduction in waiver or charges.
So I'll address the elephant in the room. Why would we ever waive a water bill?
yeah.
Very good question.
I
So-
can't call BGE and get my electric bill waived.
I can tell you it's happened.
Yeah,
Yes.
We know.
yeah.
So,
That's the elephant in the room.
Elephant in the
the
room,
elephant in the
so
room.
I don't want to,
The point is, we should not.
We should
right.
not.
but there was not a policy in place.
Within the
Before
policy
this.
shouldn't authorize someone
No, it
else to
should
do
say
it.
it
just
cannot be issued.
But I don't want to be that hard just in case.
What if someone, so I think there needs to be, if we get rid of that, I think there just needs to be going down to section 2, where it says an agreed upon payment plan needs to be established within 30 days of a overdue or unpaid water bill.
Correct. I would agree. I would
But-
Well,
agree with
Mary-
the payment plan.
Mary has a system set up to address people who are delinquent in their water bills. If you start, if you go down that road where you're mandating what date a payment policy or a payment,
I'm not, I just made that up off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I know we send the blue card.
yeah,
We then send a pink card.
yeah,
I know water has been shut off
yeah,
at people's houses.
Right.
And my neighbors have, hey, what happened to my water? You didn't pay a bill. All right,
Well,
my
it's
husband forgot about it.
It's-
And then they pay the bill and within an hour, we turn on the water.
yeah.
But what if financial hardship has come into play? We're not talking about a forgotten or screw the town, I'm not gonna pay my water bill kind of person. We're talking someone that they lost their job for whatever reason and now they can't pay. Their water should not be turned off.
Yeah, I have scenarios that I've encountered since November, where a family wasn't able to pay their bill, and I got in touch with Mount Airy Net, and we were able, and Mount Airy Net actually pays bills.
They did.
Quarterly, there's, could be a handful, whatever, and they, and they step in and take care of it. But what I guess my fear is I don't want to micromanage what Mary Van Meter is doing up there.
She does a great job.
Yeah, and but let me think out of the box and see if this changes the course of this. What I put down as a suggestion, and Tom will need your legal opinion on this, is that it would be, number one would be a reduction or waiver of charges must be authorized by the town council. That way you don't have the mayor solely making this decision, and it puts it in the hands of 5 people at the town council level. Now, what's a scenario where it would come to that? I'm not 100% sure, but I would think more along the lines of a business or something, where you have, just one of the businesses here on Main Street doesn't make their payments, and and they request that their bill get waived as opposed to going to another source, Mount Airy Net or whatever, and perhaps the answer to that is to say, well, then we're going to have to bring that in front of the town council. Would handle it. Is that plausible, or?
And
Should we ever really waive a water bill?
Well, I think there have been occasions, somebody here can correct me if I'm wrong, where there have been leakage and the water's
Okay,
run.
so that,
but
okay.
we reduced,
Cut them a break a little bit if it
Okay, then
was
that
kinda
makes
hidden
sense.
not to interrupt, I guess what we're working on is trying to figure out the definition of waive. Like, is it reduce? I mean, I don't mind reducing the bill for leakage before the meter or after the meter, there are circumstances. But is that a reduction or a waive? I think the current policy is we will work with them and reduce the charges. They'll go back through several months or quarters, see what your average is, and you'll be reduced to pay those averages.
So then, my question is, does D even need to be in here? Because we already have policy in place within town hall. Mary deals with these situations all the time, right? I assume, is it up to her discretion how she sets up the repayment plan?
Yeah, actually, I mean, in terms of operation, yeah, she'll talk to somebody and say, hey, listen, is your bill coming? When can we expect it? Can we get a partial payment? And she just kind of coaches people along. The scenario you brought up, Carl, is actually more realistic than you may even know, where particular meters don't read.
Yeah.
And we end up having to take an average of previous usage, but for all we know, that person's been in Florida for 3 months, and all of a sudden they get a bill.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I've been gone for 3 months, so I don't know how I'm getting this bill. And Mary's, right now, she has the latitude to figure all that out.
And I don't want to, how should I say, I don't want to be so inflexible where it's a pain. but yet policies can change, but I want something in place where, you know, we want to work with people, as Peter Hout would always say on water, so we don't waive, we work with people. And that's what I want. I want to be able to work with people, but I don't want someone to come in and just say, oh, well, I'm going to be nice this month to A, B, and C. I'm just going to waive it. I want a policy in place that can't be changed, or a procedure that at least we can collect if need be.
So maybe we're talking about two things. Maybe we need to further define what the policy is in town hall related to the business that Mary conducts. But here, as far as like the scenarios that Larry, Tom, and you brought up, there are, now I understand that there are reasons for a reduction or a waiver. But again, taking ownership off of Mary, off of the town administrator, off the mayor, maybe it should come to council.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have a problem. I was going to ask,
Each one is looked at individually.
and I was going to ask Tom, can we do that in closed session?
I was gonna raise that,
Yeah.
just be
Bringing up
thinking
names.
about the sensitivities of
Confidentiality.
discussing in
Yeah.
an open session who it is. Now, you could do it probably in open session in a way that doesn't name,
Like blind?
so you can make it a little more.
If that would almost fall quasi judicial, right? Where we have an applicant, they haven't paid, here's the situation kind of deal, where we act as judges.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. It could well be a function that falls outside of the Open Meetings Act. So it could also be administrative, right? You're administering an existing law, which is to say the
Right.
normal rates and what you normally do.
Yeah.
So I think what we need to do in this section is identify a procedure where the council acts outside of its legislative body. And, you mentioned closed meeting, but I would rather, when do it in an open meeting, but share no names.
Yeah,
And refer to a resident is,
requesting.
here is the situation of this resident. You have the paperwork in front of you. Are there any questions or further discussions without naming names? You're getting the paper without the resident's name, but you are looking at the situation blindly.
Yeah, no name or address, and that's what I'm going to say, if we do it open, we can do it blindly.
Even we're blind in the sense that we are not making a decision based on personal relationships.
I
just
agree.
Situational.
You know,
And that's why I think still keeping it open,
Yeah.
but removing name
Yeah, you have to protect.
allows
to.
accountability
Yeah.
from
So,
our
for example,
perspective.
in Maya, a lot of people do need help, and they would come to the president, and it was confidential when they needed it, and it was never, what they got, they got. So I think that's a great idea, and I like the mayor's suggestion to just take all that D out and put his version in. A reduction or waiver of charges must be authorized by the town council,
Yeah.
period. Because I think that was your intent with all of this, but I don't think we need all this, because then we're getting into Mary's daily
Yeah.
operational procedures, which is overseen by the town administrator, it's overseen by the mayor. There's enough internal controls with what they.
Oh, yeah, it's
So that
just,
takes us out of, exactly what Councilmember Reed said, takes us out of that and point blank, easy sentence.
So let's do the quasi judicial hearing in a blind fashion, but in an open setting.
yeah.
Right.
And one question on that, not saying, I agree with the process and everything. If we do something like this, is the document PI-able, or could it be shielded for personal reasons?
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing. There is a provision in the MPIA that exempts disclosure, in fact mandates non-disclosure if it would disclose the financial condition of somebody.
Okay,
I would think you'd be able to invoke that.
okay. And it's done not to deny anyone of PI, I'm bringing it up to protect the identity of the people requesting it. And which is,
Their property address. Or
yes, and that is more important than in my view, if they come to us for help, I want to protect their identity.
So, I think the only part is when does this action happen in the process?
Yeah, I think that it may come a little bit later on when you get to number 2, where it says, let's see, if no reduction or waiver is issued or a payment plan is agreed upon and the bill remains unpaid, then the property in connection with the unpaid bill shall be considered in default of a property lien, and the town shall take every effort to recover the unpaid balance, including the sale of the property for an unpaid lien. Okay, I finished reading it because I started down that road, but maybe that doesn't really answer that question. I think that, I mean, Mary comes to me,
Yeah,
you know, after, and I'm sure she goes to David too, but she tends to just come into me and say, we got a problem. And tells me about a person who's not paid their bill, and she tells me what she's done up to that point, how many phone calls she's made, what they told her the last time, and sets up that scenario. Now, the scenarios that I've seen so far have me calling the person or emailing them and saying, hey, listen, if you're having a problem, you know, let me put you in touch with Mount Airy Net, and let's try to get this thing paid. And, you know, so I think that I think the more likely scenario is a business that doesn't pay their bill and they can't pay it. And, you know, where they're not really going to be able to go to Mount Airy Net and say, we're a business and we're not going to make it. I think that would be the more plausible scenario as opposed to a citizen or a resident. And I would say once I heard that, then I would probably send you an email, Council President, and tell you we got a scenario that we're going to have to deal with.
okay.
I have a
With that-
question. A quick
Just go ahead,
question.
Steve.
It's just optics. I'm just listening. So that could come across as, well, the citizens, we try and send to Mount Airy Net, but the businesses, you know, we'll bail out our businesses. I mean, it just kind of sounds a little like, I think we need to be careful. I know we're going to do this, but we need to hear the rationale for the, you know, why assistance is needed, that kind of thing. But
I agree. We do have some businesses that are in trouble. I guess I can see the plausible scenario.
Yeah.
And I would think that, you know, as opposed to, you know, going to a business and saying, you know, well, you didn't make your payment, so we're going to take your stove. It might be better
Right,
to,
certainly.
you know, bring it here to the council and say, you know what, we don't like this, but we're going to have to just let this one go, you know.
So to build on what Steve said, I think keeping it generic then opens it up to both residential and business. We're not differentiating.
Yeah.
I like part 2. I think it protects us, the town. But additionally, if we're going down this road where, you know, we're going into this quasi judicial type hearing, we have to set up a process in town hall,
Yeah.
for staff to be able to provide anyone that comes to the town asking for a waiver or a reduction. There is a process, meaning they have to fill out an application, they have to write a story, you know, what's the time limit to get it to town council, that kind of thing. So, but that's separate than what's in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely some processes and procedures definitely need to be in place, because just thinking about it, when we send the first water bill and we send a second water bill and then she starts making phone calls, there needs to be something that kicks into place this next procedure of, it can't be, a week later I talked to the mayor, and then, because then one resident would get 2 days where another resident would go, well, I haven't been able to reach the mayor. They got an extra week. So I think there needs to be just some clarification on the executive side of that to kick this thing into place,
And-
so that it's fair for everybody.
Right, and then even to the point where if the resident or the business is not proactive, meaning if they don't contact us, let's just throw out within 10 days of being in default, then they may not even qualify for the waiver or reduction, because if they're not being proactive,
Yeah. Bingo,
and
like.
10 days is a little short.
Sure, but no, I know what you mean. We want the people, we should not be going to them offering, hey, we're gonna do it. They need to come to us to do it. Is that what you?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
So what I can do is set up a policy and procedure, if you think that's the way to go, as opposed to code any more charter changes, and have that established to give Mary some guidance.
Yeah, and I'll just offer this suggestion. I mean, even if you just went along the lines of, if Mary doesn't hear anything after the pink notice for 30 days, then that would then start this next, and it can be as simple as that, so that, oh, we have a date when we mailed that second notice. Okay, it's been 2 weeks, I still haven't heard, maybe then she can make a phone call. Granted, I agree, they should call us, but we'll make an effort to work with them. It's now 35 days, we should then have our meeting to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So that I understand this, meaning one would basically have similarities, a reduction or waiver of charges must be authorized by town council in a public hearing, anonymous, quasi-judicial, and then we'd keep two, but then internally you would form a policy? Okay.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Do you want to add in the right place something in there that says, according to town-approved policies or following town-approved
Yeah, I
protocols?
think that could be just like a,
And that sends the message that we have a policy somewhere, we're going to develop it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And whoever's doing this, you have to follow the process.
yeah. Makes sense.
Did you want that on the first section or the second section?
Wherever the right
Or a
place
number
is.
3 saying,
No, I think it can be part of one or the other.
okay, all right. And I think it does lend a hand with the quasi judicial hearing, if we put that in the first one and then following all procedures thereafter or whatever. Okay, all right.
I had one more thing to add there, since we're doing this, might as well get it all in there. There's also a gratis water policy. And so what I'm floating out there is that, as opposed to just saying reduction waiver, how do we have it? Reduction in waiver of charges. Perhaps it should say reduction, waiver, and gratis water policy. And
So where does that word fall in? We got a reduction, we got a waiver, and then now we're giving
so-
water for free. I don't,
let me give you the scenario that we're in, and you can decide if we want to put it in here or not.
okay,
There is one entity in Mount Airy that gets free water, and that's the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. We have a policy, a gratis water policy for the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. So I was going to suggest, as opposed to having just number 1 and number 2, to insert a gratis water policy shall be established by the mayor and town administrator in regard to the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. And then we've accounted for that as well in here.
And as long as it's specific to the fire company that, uses a
Yeah.
lot of water, they do, so, yeah.
Now, the background to
save your
that,
life.
Oh, that too.
the background to that is that there's, we used to pay all the water bills for the churches. VFW, American Legion. And so if you put it in there that the gratis water policy is specific to the fire company, then you've taken everything else out of question.
Okay, so D, will read reduction, waiver, and gratis of charges.
For volunteer.
Then, we can add, I would be okay with, Mayor, you put it as number 2, and I would just probably just add a number 3 on that one.
Okay.
And then just say, a gratis water policy shall be established by the mayor and the town administrator in regard to, and then we can be specific, the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So we'll have a number 3 on that one, referring to the gratis charges.
All right, that looks like sorry.
No, you're fine.
We are, it looks like that appears to be, we're finished 2021-2.
We just need to make a change on the last page and put the mayor's name on there instead of my name.
Oh,
But I know that was when we printed those off. I was on that one. Then,
I did have one final question here. There is a section 4 in this resolution. In section 4 says that any provisions of the town charter inconsistent with these amendments be and are hereby repealed. And
that's,
I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know.
So that's a requirement in the state code that all charter amendments have to have that provision in it. It's intended to say that any charter provision that you might have forgotten to change that now becomes inconsistent with what you've just done is null and void, so that what takes precedence is what you've done.
Oh,
So,
okay.
by example, in the ordinance that we're gonna be introducing, we have a chapter 47 reference to a Board of Appeals has only 3 members, and in chapter 112, we have a Board of Appeals with 5 members, so that's inconsistent. So what this is intended to do, let's say, is you had chapter 47 in place first, then you enact 112, 112 increases it to 5. Even though you may have forgotten to strike it out, nulls and voids the chapter 47 reference by way of example.
Okay. So that's section 4, or that provision is in all the
Yes.
resolutions.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
All
on
right,
the
now I got
state
it.
code for all charter amendments that have to contain that.
I'm not that evil, Larry.
No, I just,
Or that intelligent at times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Section 3 probably, I have a note, probably needs some wordsmithing. I note the mayor's question, what does this mean? What is now subsection 3? So I'll just make a note to try and clean up some of the language.
for the D,
Yeah, D,
The reduction.
what's now D3.
Okay.
It's gonna be D3, I guess.
so the short answer is on the second to last page. There's a number 2 at the top. It says a gratis water policy. You're using that language. Or,
Yeah, what we'll do is, I gather.
Okay.
Insert, the gratis water policy in as number 2. And what you currently show as number 2 on this copy becomes number 3. And I'm saying that then if you go down to the mayor's comments, suggest if no reduction or waiver is issued, blah, 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 blah. And he says, what, lawyer question, what does that mean? Okay.
we're
That
keeping,
triggered
we're
me.
keeping number 2 though. And I think that language was number 2.
Correct. But
Okay.
I'm just saying that there probably needs to be a little wordsmithing here that needs to be done. Shall be considered in default of a property lien. No, it's in default of what's due and owing. It's the property lien is the result of not paying your bill. So, there's just a little bit of cleanup that needs to be done on what is now becoming number 3, and I'll just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
For
And
yours.
I don't think it, you know, I had, when I told you, I had number 1 as the referencing the quasi judicial hearing, number 2 remaining the same, and then having like I put it on my section, number 3 was the gratis for the,
Oh, okay.
for the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Department.
Yeah.
And then just take that number 2 from the top of the page and make it number 3 on that section. And then you don't have to change anything unless shall be considered in default. Like, but number 2, well, I guess number 2 was added. And the town shall make every effort to recover the unpaid balance. Does that clean up what you were referring to? Or when you say wordsmithing, is this like you're doing your wordsmithing, or do you need us to do the wordsmithing, I guess?
I was
think
gonna clean it up.
Okay.
For you.
I have no problem. I have no problem. You get paid. I barely get paid.
We pass around ideas, and it's up to
I
him to make it
suggest he go
legal.
to.
You got it.
Tom saying that he's gonna
Okay.
play a little bit better.
Great job. I am going to end this meeting on this one, and at the next council meeting, we will set the date for the next resolution, 2021-3, which is talking about hiring, termination of town administrator officers and employees, and we'll work our way through that one. So at this time, it is, I don't know, about 7:20 maybe, 7:19. And so I will close this work session. Thank you.